All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast. We're going to be starting here momentarily. We got to, of course, give people time to get on and sign in and sit down and do whatever you got to do to get yourself ready for tonight's broadcast. Tonight, we got another lineup for you, and I hope you get something out of it, learn something, get inspired to do something, but most importantly, move forward, move ahead, move upward from where you were before you logged into this broadcast. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about this continuation of the broadcast that we did yesterday, talking about this whole thing about the South African farmers, and people just think it's the end of the world, and we're just going to do a little follow-up on that one. We're also going to talk about John Boyd. Now, this is the guy who is the president of the Black Farmers Association. We've actually done a couple videos on this person before, but he decided to chime in. But we're going to remind viewers of what this man is really about as it pertains to Black Americans, because what he's saying two different things, and what he's doing are two different things, and we're going to look into that. I'm also going to share with you a downloadable, okay, because when you are investigating, you're going to have to operate like an investigator. You can't be someone that's just emotional, you're all over the place. No, you're going to have your receipts. All right, so tonight I'm going to share with you something that the Congressional Black Caucus, what they've been up to, what they've been doing, and it's about time we start documenting this stuff. And then in our main feature, we're going to talk about this circle of blame, this culture of blame that's around, and people don't want to acknowledge it. And we're just going to show you, and you're going to see the similarities between what you see here in Black American culture, but also in South Africa. Since we're talking about South Africa, why not take a look at, are they doing the same thing over there? It's blame and hatred too, self-hatred. We're going to highlight some things on there, and most importantly, talk about some solutions and what can we do to get out of that circle, okay? All right, so that being said, you got your overview on what we're going to be talking about in this broadcast. So let's give it about a minute, let people get in, and then we're going to get started, okay? All right, we got about 30 seconds, and then we're going to start. There's people coming in. Sarah G in the house. We got D Nice 203 in the house. Good to see you guys. Day 2 of us trying out this whole, trying to broadcast every day, just see what I could do, see how that works, because my schedule, my personal schedule is always it's changing and adapting and all of that. So I'm just trying different things out to see, always trying to see how I can do things better. Our peace and mind counseling in the house. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to our broadcast for today, Tuesday, May the 13th, 2025. Another warm one, not too warm as yesterday, but warm nonetheless. We got up to the 90s, I think, here in Arizona. And but it was a lot of sand. It was a lot of sand. I mean, there's a lot of sand out there, but we had Sandstorm. I wish I could share with y'all. Let me see if No, I ain't gonna share it. I ain't gonna do that. If I had it, no, I ain't gonna share it. Basically, I was being funny. I was driving on my way home. I went out and they got these dirt devils. They're like little sand tornadoes. When we see them all the time, and you could be driving and you could see one that's like hundreds of feet up in the air. I mean, these things get high, and one literally crossed in front of me as I'm driving. I started screaming. I filmed it. I just shared that to my children, just try to be funny. But yeah, we got those. So we had enough of those today, and you could tell when you're looking out that, okay, it's going to be one of those days when you look out and the horizon is just brown, because that sand and the wind and all of that is just, it's really something, so it's not like like a sandstorm like you see in Indiana Jones. I mean, it's not like that. Sometimes it could get like pretty intense, but I haven't experienced that yet, but it's, it was definitely out there. And the thing about sandstorms, you got to be careful too, even the minor ones, because when you breathe in that stuff in, those particles in, it could really do some damage here in your chest area and all of that. And, so you got to be careful out there when it comes even to stuff like that. And, that's why maybe you see some people out here wearing those little face masks sometimes, because it's the sand, that sand when it's blowing, it's okay. But if you got allergies or whatever, it could definitely be an issue. But anyway, we didn't tune in here to talk about sandstorms or allergies and all of that. But I will tell you about Samba Tree. Okay. How you like that pivot? I will tell you about sambatree.com. If you're not familiar with that, make sure you head on over to our website, sambatree.com. We're all about health and wellness. All of our stories, if you're brand new to this platform, we try to center it, believe it or not, around ultimately the health and wellness of people. All right. We want people to be well. We want people to be healthy. And so we could talk about problems all we want. We could talk about what's bad and what's bad in Black society or in society at large or whatever. We could talk about those things, and understandably, we do need to talk about those things. But we also need to be able to provide some real solutions to those things. Because for many people on social media, we spend a great deal of time consuming things that are bad, but we don't spend too much time linking these things to solutions, right? And that's what we're about here. So if you go to sambatree.com, take a look, and we got pages and pages of just that, solutions of things that can benefit you, your health, your wellness, your mind. Your mind is very important. The impact of sugars and artificial sweeteners and different things like that can have on how you process, how you think things, on your temper, self-control and just the whole nine. Everything from, we got organic cacao husk tea, and we try to list out all the benefits there. My wife and I, we're going to be doing a broadcast soon where we're going to actually, because I shared recently about how our platform, which is called Shopify, basically dinged us and said, we're not paying you any more money until you take all these claims off of here, because it doesn't align with the World Health Organization and all of that. So yeah, they really jacked us up for a week. And what they did was they dinged us. They held up our funds, and when they tried to restart it, they couldn't, because it was their software that was jacked up. And yeah, I'm still, it's back to normal now, but they haven't heard the last of me, because we're just making sure everything is like what it used to be, what it's supposed to be. And then we're going to come and hit them with that southpaw. So we just, right now we're just trying to get our, getting things back to normal and everything. But anyway, yes. So check it out. Everything from dental care to teas you can even buy in bulk, and everything else. So again, make sure you check out sambatree.com, and also check out Samba Tree University. I've already told you about that as well. If you're looking to get a good healthy start when it comes to understanding how ChatGPT works and all of that, and get a free book in it, you could do that. We also wrapped up the AI artwork Samba University class on that as well. using the latest platforms out there on how to create beautiful artwork, like what you saw at the front of our page here. You know, not just throwing up a bunch of prompts all over the place, but being very intentional, teaching you how to think like a photographer, lighting, the whole nine. That's what we talk about there over on Samba at Samba University. All right, so make sure you check that out as well. All right, so there you go. Covered everything there. We're going to get right to business here, and I'm so glad that you guys are in the house. For those that are in the chat, good to see everybody here. Also, I'm very grateful, too, for the conversation, the dialogue that we have, even in the last video that I did. And I try to tell people, you know, I said, listen, do not get any. I know sometimes how I write, it may sound like I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm really not. Okay, maybe I need help in that area, but I'm not. I can be intense. You know what I mean? But I'm not angry. Okay. You know, if someone makes me angry like that, I just say bye. You know, I don't see them again. But I don't. It's not that at all. You know, and sometimes it's like, okay, you're not hearing what I'm saying, right? You know, you're talking to someone. You're not like, I want to kill you and cut your head off. It's just, okay, go back to the video. And I talked about it. You know, it can get a little frustrating sometimes when people will watch things until they get offended and then they jump into the comment section. But then I have to remind them, oh, I covered that in the video. But sometimes they want to go back and watch the rest of the video. Sometimes they don't, that kind of thing. But, you know, it's all good at the end. But whatever voice, I will say this, whatever voice you assign to me when you're reading my comments, it's usually not accurate. It really isn't. So, okay, so I'm just saying that just so if we ever are, if you know, you're free to disagree, it's fine. But, you know, but if you are making things up, you know what I mean? If it's, you know, I'm gonna challenge you on that. Just like I would expect you to challenge me if I'm making something up. You know what I'm saying? That's how it should be. So I just want you to get that and understand it. All right. All right. So let's get in it and let's talk about what we're going to be talking about. So as you know, yesterday we did a long broadcast. We talked about how, you know, this whole thing about the white farmers from South Africa and how people are just losing their minds over there. There's video clips out there where people are making up all kind of things and saying that, oh my goodness, this proves that America is a very racist nation because they're letting in these white farmers from South Africa. And the thing I pointed out to you, or I try to point out in some of these stories like this one, is how these different individuals, it don't have to be people in mainstream media, but it's also individuals that are in this space like I'm in right now. I've seen many times people in this so-called new black media space do the same thing, where they count on your ignorance. They count on your ignorance on issues. And they know what will get clicks. They know what will get likes. They know what will increase their money by counting on your ignorance. Okay? People do this all the time. And so what they know is by focusing on, you know, the racial tones, the hot button overlays, by focusing on those things, they know that for most of you, they got you. They got you because most people are just going to react on that. The difference here is we look at that, but we also try to broaden the scope and look at all the facts and the details. And you will see again tonight, I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you an example. It's a free download I'm going to give you in later on in this broadcast to help you with that. Because we have to move away from thinking just with emotions only. We have to start using this. We have to start using our minds. We have to be willing to ask questions, even questions that are uncomfortable. You know, we got to be willing to do those things, because if we don't, then you're just going to be just a perfect candidate for people just to pull you one direction or the other, and then the other, and then other, and other. And we don't want you to do that here. We want to fully equip you. That's why we invest so much time, even with that class that we did with ChatGPT, because I want people to use tools like that. Because there are a lot of people there. Do you know how many videos out here right now that people say just some of the most asinine stuff that's not even factually accurate? Take their video, You could do mine too. Take their video, download the transcript of the video, upload it to ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to fact check it. You could do that. You can either do that, or you could just go with your emotions and be like, whatever, right? You could do one of the two. Anyway, so let's start off with this whole thing with the, it's just amazing to me how this white farmer, South Carolina, wow. I'm taking y'all to South Carolina now. This white farmer, from South Africa's story is how it's spiraling, and people are just taking it in all different directions. And let me go to my channel here. Let me pull this up here. And this is one of the main things. We covered this in our broadcast yesterday. This was article, and I read it to you. This is the article in the Economist. I'm not going to read it to you now, but this article was done back in 2023. All right. And in this article, again, they talk about how white South African farmers have been coming here to this country for decades. For decades, y'all. This ain't the first time that white South African farmers were coming over here as a way of fleeing the stuff that was going on in their country. Okay. This ain't the first time. But I sit back and I'm just amazed at how people are treating this as if Trump just started this. This has been going on. This has been going on for decades. They tell you that. It's right here. I mean, I just had the first paragraph here, but please, it's in the Economist. It was in 2023. I'll just read the first paragraph here. It says, white South Africans started working on farms in Mississippi more than 2 decades ago. If Andrew Johnson, and he was pictured later in the article, remembers correctly, at Pitt's farm that was it. It was the white South Africans started working on farms in Mississippi more than 2 decades ago. Now, of course, we had the video yesterday, but I also did a short too to show people, just to highlight that, where you got black farmers that were down there that were saying that, yeah, this has been going on for a long time, and they are replacing us. They're replacing us. And one of the things that I pointed out is how the nuance even with that, because again, people will hear that and think it's solely 100% based on racism. Now, as I pointed out, is racism a part of it? Yeah, it's definitely a part of it. But there's a little more to the story. And the little more to the story is this. In that report that I shared with you, it was a video. So go back and look at it. I think it was start at minute marker 51, 50:51, I think it is. Start at, or 51:52, one of the two. Just start at 50, at the 50-minute marker. I played a video of a black farmer or a black farm worker. And what he was talking about how he was making $7 and change an hour. That's what he was getting paid. Now, when these white South African farmers, they're coming in, they're paying them at that time $12 and change an hour. Now, for some of you hearing that, it's automatic, it's racism. But I want to pull you back a little bit before you jump into that. Again, I am not denying the racial angles in that entire story, because if you keep reading, there are some angles in there, right? But I'm trying to get you to focus, stop going to that and shutting it down. But you want to look at the other much larger, the picture, as far as I'm concerned, is more important to me. And it's this. If you are a business owner, like we're business owners, you are looking for any way possible to save money. Any way possible. So if you're paying for a service, right, and you're paying, and let's say I'm paying them $50 an hour to do something, to maintain the website. Let's just say that, right? But then after a while, I'm like, okay, this is getting too costly. Shoot, I'm just going to learn this myself. Most business owners will do that. Small business owners, they'll do that. They'll say, listen, let me learn it myself. And that way I'm saving $50 an hour, right? It depends. I mean, it depends on the business owner, right? And the business that they're in. Most business owners will find ways to save money. In this case here, they went out across the daggone, they crossed over the Atlantic Ocean to reach out to white South African farmers and said, can you come over here and please do this work? And they said, we'll even pay you to do, we'll pay you $12 an hour, whatever, to do it. Not the $7 that we're paying these black folks. So when I sat back and watched that, I was like, this maybe has a little bit more to do than just racism. And again, where I'm getting in now, there's a whole lot of weeds involved in this. There's a whole lot of weeds in it, because some of the things when you're reading what some of the farmers were saying was that they're having a tough time with the existing workers that they already have, you know, just in terms of work production, work quality of work. They're having a hard, difficult time with that. And the farmers are like, listen, we ain't got time to be playing games. We need people who know this, not only know this business, but they are about production, because this is a production situation. This is not farming like you just wake up and whenever you feel like showing up, you just show up. No, we need people who have this mindset of production, right? And so that's what they did. They brought them over and that's it. And they were willing to pay these people more to get this basic job done. You understand what I'm saying? But like I said, again, I keep going back. There are some nuances that are in there that you also got to factor in as well. But it's a little bit more than just saying that dismissing this is a total race issue, because it's definitely not just that. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I failed to mention yesterday in our broadcast was making a connection. This is real quick with, again, dealing with these individuals who, unfortunately, apparently, it doesn't sound like they were, meeting the par. They were meeting what is demanded in that industry. Is that this is the mindset of a lot of folks don't want to talk about. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, because I mentioned this yesterday, but I'm going to connect it to Washington, D.C., what's going on with Doge and all of that. Just really quickly. Some years ago, we have a family friend, very good family friend. My dad, when he came up South Carolina, he worked his way up. He, Mr. Softy Truck, doing all this stuff. But he went to school down in North Carolina, and then he did more of his school. He got hired at a steel factory in Philadelphia, and, opportunity came for him to get into management, but they said, hey, listen, if you want to get into management, you're going to have to take some classes, which he did at Temple University, took some management basic business administration classes, did that whole 9 or whatever. He was able to move into management. Okay. He was able to do that. And around that same time, over time, he met a guy, really good friend of ours. And, so he put in as much time in that place as my dad did. Right. And so an opportunity came for this friend of ours, friend of the family, where he could have moved up into management because he had put in the time, and, he had to sing, all of that. Right. Well, my dad came. I remember him telling us, he was like, I'm telling him, hey, listen, you need to go for this job. You've been here. You got all the qualifications. Do it. You know what he said? I ain't trying to do that. He didn't want to do it. You know what he said? He said, you know what I'm going to do? He said, I want to be a custodian. You know why he wanted to be a custodian? Because he can come in and go pretty much as he pleases. It's not as demanding. It's not really a demanding job. And so he did that. I think all the way to his retirement. This man could have gone up into management and made more money, made more money. He could have, had he could have expanded his background and all of that. Didn't want to do it. And he chose to he wanted to clean toilets because that was easier for him. Now, let me tell you something. Now, all black people do not fall into that category. Let me be very clear with that. That is not what I'm saying here. However, what I am saying is that there are many who do, because I have worked with them through the years, and I've seen this happen quite often. On one hand, you do have black folks who are very entrepreneurial, and they're going to look for every opportunity they can to move ahead. But then you have this other side of people who really do not want to do that. They don't want to move ahead. They are content with the 9 to 5, getting my check every Friday. Don't ask me to do anything extra. That's it. That is the part that we're dealing with right here. That slice of people. That's the slice of people that we're dealing with here when we're talking about this situation. Like, for example, what's going on down in Mississippi, for example, because that has all the earmarks of that sounds like what's been going on there. When you have people who just, hey, I'm not trying to do that. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to get somebody else that's going to do it. Now, in places like Mississippi or Alabama, you do have many black folks who do own farms, right? That is true. But when you do the side-by-side comparison between black folks and the white people that own farms, white people far outweigh. But historically, that shouldn't be the case. As many hundreds of years that as black folks we have put in, farming in the Southeast should be synonymous with black people running it. As much time as we put in through slavery and everything else, we should be running that whole thing. But the truth be told, that is not the case. Unfortunately, that is not the case at all. So I hope you understand what I'm saying here. So there are nuances there are shades of racism that plays a part in this when it comes to, people getting lending from the federal government and all that other stuff and how they withheld it and all that other. I've talked about all those games and stuff that has going on with that black farmers have to endure, the ones that are actual farmers. But truth be told, even that should not be a deterrent as it is right now, because you are dealing with people who think like that. Now, let's take a trip to Washington, D.C., the same thing. Washington, D.C., what is Washington, D.C. faced with right now when we're talking about particularly black folks that were really angry about what Doge is doing? Elon Musk and that whole thing that he set up, where they're going through and they're cutting through all the fat of Washington, D.C. And guess who is suffering the most out of that? It's black people. Black Americans are getting the most. They're feeling the boot the most in that. You want to know why? I've talked about that as well. During the late 60s into the 70s, I told you again in, was it Hollywood? Was it Hollywood? No. Was that Hollywood Shuffle? Yeah, I think, that was Hollywood Shuffle. Hollywood Shuffle. You remember the scenes where the main character, he kept saying, or his grandmother used to always say, there's always work at the post office. There's always work at the post office, right? And at the end, hi, I'm at the post office. He was working for the post office, right? Well, that was a mindset that a lot of black folks have coming out of the burn baby burn, all of the protests and stuff that was going on. And the way that got diffused was that the government say, hey, listen, how about we hire you? And so the government went into this massive hiring spree where they were hiring a bunch of black folks and say, hey, listen, come on and work for the government. And then, what was the other movie? The other movie was I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. You remember that scene? And that was scene, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, when the guy came in, the protagonist, he came in, he was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go to the Black Power guy. He was the only one that was left. He said, I'm gonna go to the Black Power guy and I'm gonna raise up an army because we're gonna have to take down Mr. Big. Black Power guy broke it down to him. He said, man, there ain't no army. And he was like, where are they? He said, they got government jobs. They all got government jobs. And so it's funny, but it's not funny. Because what happened was you had an entire generation of black folks that took these jobs, these federal jobs and state jobs. Jobs, by the way, that really do not encourage you to build up your resume, right? To expand your experience. It's pretty much like we're hiring you basically to make copies, or we're hiring you to answer the phone. We're hiring you to move paper from one side of the hallway to the other, that kind of stuff. And they were paying good. They were paying very good. And, you know, once you stay there for long enough, man, you locked in. And they're paying very good even for your retirement. I can't tell you, and I'm sure many of you can attest to this, how many black folks that I know and I've met who've said they can't stand their federal job, but they love the benefits. And as a result, they have stayed in that mindset. Many of them did. They stayed in that mindset where it's just, I'm just going to sit here, mediocrity. I'm just going to stay in mediocrity. And then as time went on, they stayed in mediocrity. Now here comes Doge. And they're saying, listen, time is up. We ain't doing that no more. Here comes AI. AI is saying, I could do everything you just showed, everything you've been doing for years. I could have did it in 20 minutes. What took you 20 years to do, I can do it in 20 seconds. So black folks are mad now. They mad. I mean, you know, and here's the other thing. There was a survey taken. They said the majority, they said black wealth, the middle class, is largely based on the federal government. Let me say that again. The middle class, the economic power of the middle class is largely based on the federal government. You want to know why? Because most of these people work for the federal government. I can't think of any other race of people where the majority of their people are their wealth is based on what they get from the federal government. I can't think of any. So it says shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson. There you go. He been talking about this for a minute. I can't think of any other race of people whose wealth was based off of that. Now with Doge coming in, it has literally sliced that down. And now these people are scared now, understandably so. Because where are they going to go now? Do you understand what I'm saying? And guess what I saw recently? You know how we got this trend now with, you know, a lot of black women are taking great pride in, you know, I got my job and I'm doing this. I got my degrees and all that. Well, guess what? I just literally today, I did a search on this to confirm it because I heard someone say it. I said, let me confirm it. It's true. They said the group that has the highest rate right now of unemployment. You want to know who that group is? Black women. Black women right now have the highest rate of unemployment right now. And I don't think it's going to take that much of thinking to pair that with the fact that this is really interesting because it's going right along with what's happening in DC right now, where they're just cutting departments left and right. When you look at a lot of these black women who have all these multiple degrees and stuff, it's a high percentage. I think it's significant. I forgot the percentage but it's very significant. Amount of black women who have all these degrees, guess who their employer is? In many cases, it's the government. You understand what I'm saying? So what's my point in this and how this all tied into white South African farmers and all that? Well, it's tied in this way. When you have this mindset and you get into a place where you think that you cool, you straight, and nobody can touch you, you can never think that way. You can never think that in an economy like this, you always got to be thinking ahead. You always got to be enriching yourself and building yourself up and moving upward and forward. You always got to think that way. The mindset of people who just sit back and think that, oh, this is just how it's going to be for the next 20, 30 years. You are going to witness, you got a front row seat and you're going to see these people begin to lose jobs left and right. I'm telling you right now, unemployment is going to get worse, unfortunately, for many black people. I have to tell you that I'm going to be, I'm not trying to be negative Nate here. I'm being honest here. For black folks who think that way, they are getting their wake up call right now, and it has nothing to do with racism. It has everything to do with the fact that because you adopted this mindset that you think that you are entitled for a job for life. It just ain't going. You're gonna find out. And South Africa, surprisingly, they're going through the same exact thing. Maybe if I have time, I'll touch on that. They're going through the same thing. Their economy, their millionaires, the black millionaires in South Africa, the majority of their millionaires, you can look this up. The majority of the millionaires in South Africa, guess who their employer is? The government. The government. You can look this up. The majority of millionaires, black millionaires in South Africa, their source of income is the government. That is not a way to run an economy. And you're going to destroy that economy as it's happening right now as we speak. So, but yeah, so I wanted to kind of tie that rest of that stuff in, but it's really interesting because I have this video of John Boyd. I'm gonna move on to John Boyd here in a moment here, but it just, I'm listening to these different platforms on YouTube, and they're talking about everything else about this South Africa thing. They're staying on the racist angle, but they're not talking about the fact that these farmers, getting back to these farmers now in South Africa, these South African farmers that have been in Mississippi for decades, they're not talking about the fact that in that same report that we showed you yesterday, how it's impacting black farmers, as I just mentioned here. And so if you were so concerned about black people as much as you want to get up here and say that you are, then why have you not been speaking about these poor black people decades ago? This been going on. Black farmer workers been losing their jobs over this. But then all of a sudden now you want to open your mouth because now it's happening under Trump, and you got to say something because of course, Trump is the devil, and you got to say something about that. But all before this, you had nothing to say. What it shows you is that most of these Negroes that are out here, I don't care if they're called themselves in new black media. I challenge you. I challenge you. You can pause this video. You can go and look at all these other people who claim to be new black media. Don't put me in that category, okay? Because they can have that. All right. I don't like the titles. I ain't rolling with that. That ain't me. Okay. So don't put me in that group. But I challenge you to go to these channels and see how many of these channels actually mention that. How many of these channels actually mention how white South African farmers have been putting black farm workers out of business for decades? I guarantee you ain't going to find that one. Not one. Because why? At the end of the day, a lot of these people don't care. They don't. Black folks, they will use black people will use other black people as a punchline, you know, for whatever their agenda is at the moment. It's sad, but it's very true. It is. But I challenge you, go look that up. All right, so let me look up, speaking of looking up, let's get to this video here. This is under John Boyd. John Boyd. Now he is the president of I think it's the National Black Farmers Association or something like that. Okay. Now he was recently on Don Lemon's show. I'm trying to bring it up here. It's a very short clip. And he's up here. Here he is. And he's up here talking about how worried he is that how these white farmers are going to have an impact on black farmers. So let me pull this video clip up for you and let's listen to it. It's a short clip and then we'll get into it.
Were allowed into the country and what that means for the Black folks and the Black farmers, what's going to end up, and the Black farmers who've lost so much land over the decades here in the United States because of the racist policies. What does this do? What does this mean? When you see this, what do you think?
Well, Don, this is a slap in the face to America's Black farmers right now. Here you have the President of the United States flying in white farmers.
About he goes on, and the audio, by the way, was their audio. That wasn't my audio. But yeah, he goes off on his rant about, you know, how racist it is and how it's going to impact Black farmers. Like I just mentioned again, you know, I just told you about this has been going on for decades. That's number one. Number two, this dude right here. Let's talk about him. I've done 2 videos on him, at least 2 videos. And how much of a liar this man really is. I will call him that in the face, because I'm going to break down for you very quickly what he is talking about. Because again, he's saying he's worried that these 59 white farmers from South Africa is going to adversely impact Black farmers. Well, let's go back a little bit. This is the same guy who got up and was almost at the point of tears or whatever, pressuring the United States to sign a bill that was going to, he said this out of his mouth repeatedly. He kept saying this thing over and 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 over again. He kept saying this thing over again about how Black farmers need to be, you know, they need to get their just due. In other words, there's been this long history of racism and all of that. And, you know, this needs to be settled. And so all under the Obama administration, you know, they kicked the can a little bit and they finally did a little something. And then when Biden came into office, I think Biden, you know, I think pushed it over the goal line or the finish line or whatever. So they got their billions of dollars. But what he left out of that, because see, Black people just kept repeating the headline over and over again. The Black farmers, they get their money. The Black farmers get the, but see, there's people like us here. We actually read what the bill said. If you go to, and it's in Google now. I mean, Google, they say they know they're dealing with people who won't read now. So they just put it up at the top of the page for you. All you got to do is do a simple search here. It's right here at the top here. John Boyd Jr., the president of the National Black Farmers Association, is a central figure in the fight for justice and equitable treatment for Black farmers and other farmers of color. You see how they slipped that in there? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is so all that money, it didn't necessarily just go to Black farmers. It went to other farmers of color. So, but notice how he titles his association, the National Black Farmers Association. I don't see the National Black and Other Farmers of Color Association. It's the National Black Farmers Association. But they will slip that thing in there all the time, where the money that they're claiming that's going to Black American farmers, a lot of it actually isn't. He's getting a bag. And maybe a few other Black farmers are getting a bag. But that and other people of color, you know, they're getting a significant portion of that bag. So that's number one. I called him out on that. The second thing I called him out on is he did a interview where he talked about how it's so hard to find people that going to want to work in the farming industry. You know, it's just so hard. So he didn't say it, but he said it in this interview. He talked about the importance of getting this immigration bill. He was pushing this immigration bill. He helped push this immigration bill that was done under Biden. He helped push that. You know why he was pushing it? Because a lot of his workers ain't Black folks. And he got up on national TV and said how difficult and how hard it is for him to find Black people who want to work in the farming industry. So all I did was I went through, I pointed out to you all the HBCUs all throughout the Southeast A&M, A&T. I showed you their programs and what they focus on. Among other things that they cover, they also cover, they train people who want to get in the agricultural business. Now let's massage this a little bit, okay? Let's work this out a little bit. So you got black folks who still in 2025 still want to work in the agricultural industry. So miss me with the whole nonsense that black folks don't want to work in the industry, because that's a whole lie. You got HBCUs all across this country that train black students in that area. So let's work this a little bit. So you got these students, right? Now they're being trained not to pick cotton. Okay, let's be real with that. To pick tobacco or pick beans. They're not necessarily being trained for that. If you're going to college, it's probably going to be a little bit more than that, right? But let's say if they did something like this, John Boyd and the others. Let's say they said, okay, listen, we as black farmers, we're going to create a whole career path for these HBCU students who have an interest in wanting to work in the agricultural field. What we're going to do is this. We're going to bring you on board. You're going to start at the bottom. All right, you're going to start at the bottom. But here is a problem that we have right now, and we need you as college educated students, or you're not college students anymore, but we need you to put your minds together. We want to create a brain trust and to help us to figure out how creative ways that we can get more people who want to do this kind of work. But at the same time, take a look at how we're doing. Look at how we're doing things. What can we do that will help make this into a very desirable and a very rewarding occupation? What can we do to market this? Companies do this all the time. This ain't nothing new, I'm telling you. So bring those students in, have them work it out, have them figure out this problem that you're saying you have, but at the same time, have them start them at the bottom. And then as they are working their way up, right? As they're working their way up, they are getting the knowledge from the ground up on how to run a farm. They're getting all the knowledge on how to run a farm. And then they're boosting their resume in the process. So now they have increased their value in the marketplace. So wherever they go, they're not just office trained people, but these are people that they can be in the office one day and be in the field in the next day. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? So you're increasing the value of these individuals that graduated from these HBCUs. Well, let's continue with this. So you bring them in, right? They're doing all this. And then at the end point, once they go through this program, whatever this program is, you say, as a reward, because you went through this, we're going to give you a portion of land. Everyone that goes through this program, we're going to give you a portion of land. You got the knowledge, you got the skill set, you have the industry connections because you were working with us. Now you can go and build your own thing. You can either be a subsidiary of my farm, so that way we're expanding this farm, or you can start and do your own thing. We don't care. We just wanted to bring you in through the process so that you come out on the other side. And now we are thinking with a mindset where we're going to take this whole thing over. So there you go. I just put that together. So why are we not seeing anything like that? Is there anything out there like that? But this guy, instead of doing something like that or even talking about something like that, this guy will go out and push a whole bill that will encourage this country to have open borders, to bring in people from Mexico and all these other countries to do his work. He is no better than any of these other farmers out here. But yet he wants to put on a coat of blackness to try to make it seem as if he's speaking for all black folks, when he is demonstrating that he doesn't care about black folks at the end of the day. But now he wants to get up here and pretend that he's all in fear mode because, oh no, the dastardly white South African farmers, they're coming in and they're going to take over. Negro, you don't even care about the Negroes that are already here, that are already losing jobs. Why not be a solution for the black farm worker that I talked about just yesterday, that I highlighted in the short, he said he was getting $7 an hour. Hire those people, pay them more if you can, but give them incentives first on why they should work for you. Besides, because we're black. No, you got to give people incentives. Why should I work for you? Give them the bigger picture. Don't just give them a small part. Well, it should be a privilege and honor that you're working for another black farm. No, you got to give me what else? What's the bigger picture here? All companies do this. When I work if you work for a company, they're going to give you all the incentives. You're not just a worker. You're part of a vision, and here's the vision, and this is where you fit in the vision, and all of that. They're going to lay that all out. They got videos and everything else. They're going to lay that all out. You got to do the same thing as a black entrepreneur. When you're hiring people, you can't just bring people in and say, I just need you to answer phones. No, bring them into a vision. What's the bigger picture, man? What's the bigger picture than us just getting a check every week? The truth is, a lot of people don't want the bigger picture. They don't. They just, hey, give me my check every week. You do have those people. And that's the demographic that we need to deal with, because they're the ones, they're not the builders. We need to focus on those who have a mind to build, who have a mind to put things together, and to put people together who likewise share the same vision on these things, so that we can grow and move forward. But this guy here, he's a whole hoax as far as I'm concerned, John Boyd, because that's just a bunch of hot stinking mess there. And people will, again, they will not track this man's record. They won't track it. But you need to have that mindset. Speaking of tracking records, let's talk about this next item here. If you give me a moment, I'm going to show it to you first. Then I just need you to give me about a minute, and I will make it available for you to download. Let me go ahead and present this to you. Now, when we look at the, Team True said the NFBA website, let me put that on the screen so other people can see it. He said latest blog post is 2 years old, curious on what they actually are doing between political events. Exactly. This guy will go to DC all the time with his black hat, the cowboy gear on, and bring his horse. And I'm just a poor old farmer. I'm just out here trying to make it. And, he'll do that. But no, what's your plan for all of these black HBCU students who are going to college to get trained on doing what you're doing? I don't hear that. I don't ever hear that as a discussion coming from these people. So it's not that black folks aren't interested in it, because there are. It's just the people who are successful at it, are they doing anything to make it better? That's the point. Anyway, let's move back here to this post. This is a thing I did. Now, I'll explain this in a moment, and I'll make it available to you. Okay, so speaking of this same topic here, along these lines here, you got to know, first of all, who claims to represent you. And we have to move from just simply screaming and hollering every time they say something stupid, like the whatever the girl name is, when going around doing the sister girl routine that she's doing. I mean, whatever. That she's not serious. She is not a serious person at all. She's been hired to do an act, right? But at the same time, they are in powerful positions. And these people will use their platform to say things at the right time, but won't do anything right, for the people that they claim that they're representing. So we need to start keeping records on these people, on where they do stand on some of these issues. So what I did was, again, use ChatGPT. Anybody can do this. And I wanted to outline all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And I wanted to grab as many quotes and their voting records as possible on two topics: on immigration reform, which means open borders policy. That's what that means. And on LGBTQ. And this table has all 62 members. And all 62 members are on board with the same. It's like it's like someone gave them a memo and said, okay, follow this. This is the script. You need to follow this. When it comes to these kind of issues here, immigration, having open borders where you're just bringing in all kinds of people in here that are having an adverse effect on black workers. They don't care about that. They encourage it. They want it to happen because their masters tell them to do that. So they don't care. They don't care the impact. They don't care of the massive amount of black residents in places like Chicago who are taking a vocal stand against this open borders policy that this country has had for years, and the impact it's having on things like black people acquiring housing or the availability of set-asides that were made for black citizens of the United States, citizens, legal citizens. They don't care. Black politicians, at the end of the day, they are the enemies of black people. And this is just part of the receipts that show you this. So on this column here, support for immigration reform, like I said, you can go down the whole thing. All of them vote the same way. And I also grabbed some quotes because I wanted to make sure I had some quotes from some of them so you can see just how passionate they are about this whole situation. You just saw recently in New Jersey how they were quote unquote trying to break into ICE facilities to try to break these people out. But I showed you in that post recently about how did they have this same energy for black men who were jailed for years for crimes they didn't commit. Did they have that same energy to get them out? No. But MS-13, some of these people, not all of them, but some of these people are MS-13 gang members. And these Negroes are trying to break them out. Black people trying to break gang members from other countries out of the prison. Are you tracking with? Are y'all listening to me? These black politicians are trying to break into the prisons to try to break out gang members from other countries. But all you got to do is go to some of these organizations that specialize in, focusing on people who've been jailed, wrongly. There's a whole bunch of them that's still up in there. But I don't see them going in saying we're going to break down the walls and we're going to go in there. All these phony behind churches, and then they stood there like it's holy ground talking about we gonna all stand together one by one. We're going to protect these people. And these freaking people, they don't do the same thing for these inmates who've been jailed, and they don't need to be in jail because they didn't commit the crime. They don't do it for those people. But these Negroes will line up for a moment and put themselves in prison for gang members. And they do the same thing for LGBTQ. Same thing. So I'm trying to show you that these people do not have your interests at heart. These people have been hired to be manipulators. They will manipulate your emotions, and they will use that as fuel to do what they need to do. And I will also say that what we call so-called black, to a certain extent, new black media ain't that far behind them. They're just a different shade of it. So anyway, give me a moment here because I already uploaded it. I will give you the link. If you give me a moment here, I'll give you the link, and then I will put it in the chat here. All right, so got the link there, and I'm putting it in the chat. There you go. Boom, there it is. All right, so you could take that and do whatever you need to do with that and investigate further, okay? But we need to start. This is how we need to think in this time that we're in right now. We got to operate like this, where you're really starting to keep records of this stuff. This is how you got to think. And that's the era that we're in right now. Let's see. Let's go to, and again, big shout out to everybody that's in the chat. So glad that you guys are here. Really appreciate that. Let's move on to the next topic here, which is, looking at the thumbnail. If you saw the thumbnail there, if you're familiar with the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other, all I did was replace the Spider-Man with black folks. And it doesn't matter if it's black folks here in America or in other countries or whatever, you're going to find that it's pretty much this, there's a subculture, if you will. And I think that's a very accurate way of putting it. It's a subculture of blame, where we're just blaming other people for it, right? Now, lately here in the United States, we've been talking about, so there's two parts of this section here that we're going to talk about. This first part, we're talking about this whole thing of blame. Then I'm going to talk about self-hatred. So in the blame section here in the United States, we oftentimes we point out, you got this whole FBA Inc. You got to put ink there because Tariq Nasheed, he owns that label. Never forget it. And where you have black Americans who are saying, hey, listen, we need to delineate ourselves from these other groups. We're tired of this country, the United States government, or the powers that be in this country, lumping all of us into one big descriptor called black Americans or black. Because what's happening is that you got others that come from other countries that may have the same skin tone, and they will come in under this banner. And what will happen is twofold. When they are successful, they will immediately pull themselves from under that banner of black and say, I'm a Jamaican, or I'm from the Bahamas, or I'm from Africa. I'm not the black American. So you got that group, okay? They will use the cover of blackness for that purpose. They'll use it to come in, and when they're successful, they'll make sure they represent their country, okay? All right, that's what happens. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Then you got the other element of people that come into this country. Well, they ain't trying to better themselves. They bring a criminal element with them. And so what happens is that when you look at the stats of black on black crime, for example, or whatever, any black statistic that's dealing with crime, what these statistics don't show you is the percentage of those black people who are actually black Americans versus people who come from these other cultures. So there's really no way. There is a way, but they're not doing it, to itemize and say, okay, when we say black on black crime, it's Jamaicans, it's such and such, it's black Americans, it's such and such. There's really not a whole lot of itemization that I've seen on at least government research that does that. And that has been, one of the big sticklers of what we've been seeing as far as this whole movement is concerned, as far as like black Americans wanting to put a little bit of distance. So I get that. I do understand that. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. But what has come with that as well is a lot of, xenophobia. There's a lot of talking points that I'm seeing people use from both sides, whether it's black Americans or people that are coming from Africa or the Caribbean, whatever. Both sides are using these talking points that oftentimes these talking points are white talking points. I mean, they will say some of the same things that white people used to say about us, all of us. And they will repeat the same things to each other. So that's not helpful. And it's grown into this nuclear war between black Americans and these other groups and vice versa and all of that. And that doesn't move forward. So oftentimes, like when I'm on social media, be it on X or whatever, or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, oftentimes you will see, for example, black Americans saying that anytime you show some video clips of crime that's happening wherever in in America, they will easily shift it and the blame and say, oh, they're Jamaican. Oh, they're such and such. Oh, they're this group. Oh, they're that group. And then at the same time try to make it seem as if Black Americans don't do any of this stuff. When we do. You know what I mean? This last election, we saw how many Black Americans, not enough, but it was enough to get Trump elected. Many Black Americans actually stood up and said enough is enough. We're going with Trump because Trump is putting an end to all this illegal immigration stuff. And so you got more and more Black folks who are starting to rise up and to put in, who are really being vocal about immigration and all these other people coming in. Well, if you go to South Africa, which we've talked about this on this platform as well, they are also dealing with their own xenophobia situation where you got Nigerians and other groups from these different countries that are coming in, starting businesses and all of that. They don't like that. So there's been a whole lot of street battle when it comes to these two groups, when it comes to immigration over there too. So they're fighting their own immigration issue as well. Okay, so that's one side of the house. Now, the other part of it is this. So it's convenient for people to blame each other. So that's one part. The other part of this is this. At the end of the day, we can blame each other for different things all we want. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to a self-hatred issue. It comes down to self-hatred. Within Black, I want you to follow exactly what I'm saying here. Okay? I am not saying this, what I'm about to say to you does not apply to all Black people. I got to say that because people get in their feelings and they automatically assume things. And I want to be very clear with this. It does not apply to all Black people. But in what we call Black culture, within Black culture, there is a tolerance for self-hatred. And when I say Black culture, I am expanding that to not just here in America, but I'm also saying for this discussion, we're going to take a special look at South Africa. Okay? But it's not just South Africa. We can talk about Haiti. We could talk about the Caribbean. I can go down to Mexico. I mean, we can talk about different areas where you find a lot of Black folks. And one of the big issues is a genuine hatred that Black folks who claim that Black culture have towards each other. And it's not just a hatred, it's a murderous hatred. It is. That's why I said if anybody attempted to rebuild Tulsa's Black Wall Street, it would not last because it would be burnt down. The white man bombed the first one. Black folks would torch it and rob it the next go around. Because why? It's happening literally every day right now with businesses all over the country. You don't need to wait for that. It's being demonstrated over and over again. But let me show you now. This is just some random videos that I'm going to share with you very quickly. This is in South Africa. And these are just random. These videos I'm going to show you, these are they're about a few years old. But the amount of infighting that was going just politically, it continues. It's an ongoing issue in places like South Africa. Let me show you. Let me put that on the screen here. And I'm just going to go through these very quickly here. All right, here we go. All right, so that's another one. Now, this is an all-Black country, so you would think, oh, man, everything is rainbows and gumdrops. There's another one. I don't need to play the volume on that. There's another one. Let's continue there. And then now let's get to, we're going to come to America. Okay. Just going to show you just some random clips here. Just trying to get a couple of them up here. This is, now these are recently. This was at a Golden Corral. This happened, I think, Mother's Day. Fighting over what? You're in Golden Corral. What is that serious where you gonna have to go? You have to do that. That was one that happened Mother's Day. Here's another one. Here's something else here. Let me see if I can find that one. Let me see. Give me a moment here. This was Mother's Day. This is in Bishopville, South Carolina. Bishopville, South Carolina. This is at a Dollar Tree. Okay, here we go. So they drove a whole car in there. They drove a whole car in the Dollar Tree, a whole car in there because again, the amount of hatred, you really have to hate somebody, to do something like that. Let's see if there's another one here. I mean, these are videos I can, this was in Philly. And I want you to take a special look at this one because I'm like, you could just see the rage. This is in Philly. The police trying to break it up. This happens, y'all, every day in America. Every day in America, this happens. And I can go on. There's plenty other videos I can share with you, but, I have to, be mindful, because for some people and it is a traumatizing thing, for real. It is. I don't want to take that away from it, but I mean, I'm talking about group fights that happen on a regular between black men and women, literally all the time. Now, this is just the extreme cases. But then when you start getting into the much smaller things, such as just people sabotaging one another or going in on each other verbally on social media and all of that, you will see this happen literally every day. It's so popular within what we call black culture. Tyler Perry has been made a billionaire off of it. He makes movie after movie after movie after movie off of these same themes. So it's okay to be entertained by it. But when it comes down to actually addressing it and let's stop this foolishness, oh, well, no, I don't want to hear that. Oh, it's too traumatizing. I can't look at it. I can't look at it. Oh, Tyler Perry coming out with a movie. When can I see it? You understand what I'm saying? So this level of self-hatred, it's so deep. And I'm going to keep on mentioning this over and over again because when you're under that cloud, I don't think people realize that, because sometimes I'll listen to people and they say, well, well, honey, listen, you just gonna have to pray, or maybe just get, no, this is beyond that. We're beyond that now for a lot of these people. The hatred is very real, and it's something that you see when we talk about the crime rates, for example. I'm not going to even get into that, but as deep as I can. But the crime rates in South Africa, for example, going back over there, it is crazy. It's a crazy amount of crime, gun crime. They said on average, this was a video I saw, what was it? It's a 2-year-old video. I just saw it today. Gun crime, they said on average at that time, 30 people a day in black controlled South Africa are getting shot. 30 people a day. And you have this whole trend of what they call femicide, where a lot of the violence is being directed towards black women. A lot of violence is being directed towards black women. This is in a black controlled country, but yet they're dealing with this issue. What is this thing? Now, when I was in the Hebrew space, they said that it was all about of the curse, that we're a cursed people. And this is why black people act the way they do. But let me help you out here. Number one, even though this seems very dark and dismal and hopeless, let me tell you something. Black people are not cursed. Okay? I will say that until the day I leave out of here. I will never see myself as a cursed individual. I am not a cursed individual. I'm a very blessed person. When I look at my marriage, it's not a cursed marriage, it's a blessed marriage. When I look at my children, they're not cursed, they're blessed. They're doing very well. We have our challenges like anybody else, but we are not cursed. When religious people tell you that, what they are telling you, the reason why they're telling you that stuff is because it keeps you in the matrix thinking, where you just stay thinking that you're going to need this. Well, you need the matrix now. You're going to need the matrix in order to, because if you don't have the matrix, you're nobody. So you got to accept the fact that you're a cursed individual. No, I'm not accepting it. When I was in that space, in that world, I was repeating that same stuff. But then I realized, I said, no, that's part of the problem right there. I'm not going to say that, because I'm not. What this is all this stuff that we're seeing, it's going back to the meme. Go back to the what you call it? Go back to the thumbnail. It's the passing of the buck. You're just passing along. You're pointing it. It's someone else's fault. It's them. It ain't me. It's them. It's not me. It's them. It's not me. You cannot be a part of a culture that thinks like that and think that culture is going to move ahead. A culture that always passes the buck and blames somebody else, that is not a culture that is going to last very long. It's not. You're going to have to be individuals that when you see things, if it's happening in your own backyard, you're saying, you know what? Yeah, I got to take ownership of that. You're right. I got to take ownership of that, because this is wrong. This is very wrong. Now, let me close out with this here. Now, you're going to find this very interesting, and this is going along with this whole self-hatred thing. Have you guys heard of this trend of black folks again? This is trend on TikTok, where black people are out here inviting gingers, and I'm talking black folks, who are saying that white people with red hair I'm trying to get it up here now, that white people that have red hair are actually black people. I kid you not. This is a whole trend now. And I'm not going to be able to play he's playing this guy here, when you see it, he's playing like some rap music or whatever. And I'm just going to show it randomly on the screen here. Of course, I got to redo it here. Let me do it again. So Friday nights be hitting a little different now for us gingers. All right, so that's one here. Let me go back. Sorry, y'all. I'm just. Yeah. Hold on. Where's the share button on this thing? Hold on. Shoot, I may download this one. Yeah, I downloaded it. Let me just upload it to y'all so you can see it. Here it is. It's about 1:20. Okay, here it is.
I know I look terrible. I just woke up, got out of bed, saw one of the most beautiful videos ever. It was about me. I've hit a lot of pain in my life. A lot. And I'm now able to talk about it. I woke up going viral, getting thousands of followers, support, love, comments, DMs, feeling truly wanted.
Okay, you get it. So here's another one here. So I'm getting to some of these other ones here. But all you got to do is, if you go on TikTok, you'll see it. I'm seeing it on Twitter as well. All right, so let me get this guy up here.
Black Queens now. I've been scoring around TikTok, and word around town is that I'm a black man. So, I mean, I always felt this way. It's just being confirmed by my Black Queens now. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be accepted into the community.
All right, there you go. So I got to cut it off quick because he playing music in the background. So, yeah, so he's been accepted into the community. Here's another one here. I have to turn the volume down on these things. I'll just let it play, okay? Here's another one here. She's celebrating. They're not really saying anything here. They're celebrating the fact that they're saying, we're all one. All right, here's another one here. Someone did a whole cartoon here. We all knew that gingers were one of us. Here's another one. All right, here's another one here. Oh, they won't let me get that. I don't know why they're saying that, but dang, can I show y'all this? Let me see, because it won't, unfortunately, it's not gonna. You see that they got the black woman, older black woman. She got a headscarf on, and she's holding the white ginger girl. These are black accounts that are doing this, by the way. These are real black people. And this is a white woman. She said this. I'm just reading this. Let's get this one up here.
Literally saved my physical life multiple times when I was growing up. But I'm going to tell you about a time when I was 7. When I was a kid, my grandparents took my brother and I to a water park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. My brother was 3. He's also a redhead. And when I was a kid, I'm older now, so my hair's got.
Okay, I don't care, but you get the point. But there's this trend now on there's a trend now on TikTok, and it's also on Twitter. I've seen it too, where black people are coming out and they are declaring that white people with red hair, gingers, are actually black people. And then, of course, black people, you got to get the black scientists, the hood scientists that's got to make the connection that, yeah, they really are the people. And I'm sure I'm going to have some Hebrews and say, that's right, because Esau, he had red hair and we both came out of, they're going to do that. But that's what they're saying. And so now this is the trend. But see, I stepped back, and when I saw this, I said, wow, this is when you have a broken society, when you have a broken so-called community, they will reach out to any people. We're the black community is the only community that has cookouts where they are constantly inviting everybody else. And when it comes to their own, well, you got to before you get in, you got to make sure you pass the brown paper bag test. Isn't it something? But this is what's happening right now. So these little things that pop off like this right here, you better start paying close attention. And it should give you everything we covered in this broadcast. Hopefully, it's all the more reason why you have to start thinking seriously on how you as an individual need to really begin to separate yourself from a lot of this foolishness. Many of you have, but a lot of it is a daily thing. It is a daily thing. It's something that you have to be very conscious of. And like I told you, I gave you the analogy before. I said, listen, I'm at the point right now, if I'm in a store or something like that, and I see some Negro come in there and he's stealing something, trust me, I ain't going to be the one with the camera like, okay, I want to make sure the cops are treating them right. I'm going to be on the other side of the store buying something and then going to go out the other side. No, you brought that on yourself. You're not going to pull me into your foolishness. You understand what I'm saying? And we have to be the same way when it comes to our family members as well. I know we love our family, but there are family members that will constantly try to pull you into their foolishness. You can't do that, and you can't allow them to do that. Okay. This is a new day. You got to live for you. Okay. That's not selfish. That's not selfish. That's not being selfish. Whatever repair work you need to get done in here, you need to focus on that first. This should be a season of self-repair, self-reflection, and self-repair. You need to start. That's what the focus needs to be on. As far as this other stuff is concerned, don't allow these people to pull you and draw you in to a lot of this foolishness that's out here, because it's not worth it. I don't care about no white farmers from South Africa. Who cares? Let's begin to start building our own solutions. And there's plenty of tools out here where we can start doing that now. But it starts with you. And then from there, then you can start joining up with other people who have the same mindset, who have putting out the same energy. You can start linking with them, and then you can start building for real. All right. That's how it's supposed to be done. But anyway, I think that's it. Someone said, how are they black? Well, I tell you what, when you find out the answer to that one, let me know, because I don't even know. I don't know how that's possible, but but there we go. But that's it. That's all I have. I'm going to be here for a minute or two. If anybody has any questions for me on any topic, you are free to ask. All right. You are free to ask. Let me put some music on here. I'll stick around here for about a minute or so. And then after that, I'm going to bounce. All right. All right, so make sure I'll put that link that I posted earlier. I'll make sure I'll put that in the description too, or in the comments. So so people who didn't catch this live, you can get the link and you can download that. I'll give it another 30 seconds. And that's it. I'm going to bounce. All righty. Well, if nobody's got anything else. Oh, someone said, will people be replaced by AI or will people be replaced by people who understand how to use it? That's a good question. That's a good question. Someone said, where or how do we start healing as a people? Jennifer, now how long you been watching us? How long you been watching us, sis? We answer that. I try to answer that every broadcast. How does the healing start? It starts with you. I just said that. I'm not yelling at you. Okay, by the way, I'm not yelling at you. You can no longer have a mindset, or we can't have this mindset where it's a large group like Moses and the children of Israel, crossing the Red Sea, and it's all black people. We're all going to be corporately healed. You cannot think that way. You can't think that way. You gotta focus on you. And then from there, you start building your own support system from there. Now, when we look at other cultures, yeah, we do see a tendency where it seems like a lot more of them will work together. Like when you look at different Asian communities and all that, and they work together there. But there are some very significant dynamics when it comes to black people here in America, and also those that were suffering under colonialism, where I pretty much think it's nearly impossible for us to reach that level. You understand what I'm saying? Where you got the entire black community, a huge black community that are all marching and walking on one accord when it comes to building things economically and all of that. I just don't think, I think there are a lot of things that unfortunately we're not going to be able to do at that level. But on a much smaller scale, you will be able to achieve that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it does. Jennifer said, it saddens my heart. It does. It really does. Because I used to think that way too. So when I talk about, a lot of times when I'm talking about these, like how Asian businesses, like Korean specifically, when in the hair industry, and how they all work together. Now they will fight each other. They can't stand each other on certain things. But when it comes to doing business, they have a core set of values that they're going to stick to, right? I can't really say that within the black community. You won't see that outside of fraternities and sororities and Masonic orders. You won't see that, unfortunately, not on a wide scale, because there are too many things, unfortunately, attributed to a number of factors that have broken those key pillars down. You understand? It doesn't mean that we can't work together. Black people will never be able to work together. I don't believe that, because there are black people who do. It just won't be. I think it's not fair for us to compare ourselves to, let's say, Koreans or the Chinese or whatever, because they didn't go through what we went through. You know what I mean? And so, that is something to be of note. You got to notate that, that's real. So think small, start with yourself, think small, and build your support system from there. And then also realize that your support system ain't going to all look like you. They're not going to all have the same color that you have. You're going to have some people in your support system that may be of a different race or whatever. But as long as you have shared interests, that's what matters at the end. Someone said, it does sadden my heart, but we have to protect our peace. Come on. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So that's the era that we're in right now, protecting your peace. It's because if you won't protect your peace, nobody else will. Okay? Your peace is very important. Protect your peace. Thank you for that. Peace and Mind Counseling said, think micro and not macro. We're not in the right headspace to collaborate based on race alone. We got to see past that now. Very true. Very, very true. You can't, it would be impossible for us to think that we're going to get 500 black people together and we're going to build something. I know we tell ourselves that all the time, but it's just, there's too many issues that aren't being dealt with so that repair can take place, so that we can get to that place. If and you got religion and you got all this other stuff that's interfering with that healing process. That's why I said, no, we need to get the church up out of here. The church system needs to go. We don't need no more preachers. We don't need any of that right now. Now we need to get some healing done. You know what I mean? And it starts with you. All right. So that's it. And that's it. Really appreciate each and every one of you guys. Again, check out our sister, Peace and Mind Counseling, her channel too. She talks about this stuff as well. This is her specialty, you know, so make sure you check her stuff out as well. Okay. That's all I have for you guys this evening. You guys take care. We'll be talking again soon on some other important issues. So take care. Thanks again.